So in this section of the video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the dyes and make flowers. So all I've done is prepped a long sheet of fabric. So this is just white, thin fabric, just any cotton. It can be something you've got lying around at home that you want to recycle or reuse. So cut them into strips, but just make sure with your biggest dye that they'll get on, because you don't want to do it all and then realise you've not got the sheets big enough. So all I've done is prepped it first with the Cadence fabric hardener. So put a thin coating of this all over and let it dry. So when it does dry, it does sort of shrivel and go into like a little bit of a cone shape. All you have to do is just iron it down and it'll go back to normal. Then I've used the Cadence Dora wax in the rose for this one, but you can use any wax colour depending on what project you're working on. So I'll just show you that. I have watered it down a little bit, so I've used it more of as a paint because the consistency of the wax is a little bit thicker. So depending on how strong and intense you want the colour, so you can see in parts of here I've laid it on a bit thicker, so it'll be a little bit more patchier, so every petal is just a little bit different. So then all I've done then is folded it up like this. So I've just concertinaed the paper just a little bit, and with the fabric hardener on, it gives it like that paper-like feel, so it completely changes the structure of the fabric. So you can see I've just folded it there and it's kept its shape. So all you do then is get your dyes. So I'm using 3 different size dyes here. So you've got your small, your medium and your large. So all you do then is pop it on like that, pop it through your dye machine like normal, and then cut your petals out. So I've already prepped and cut all my petals out for you. So we've got 2 big ones, 4 small ones, and 4 medium ones pre-cut for you. So depending on the flower you're making or how thick and big you want your flower can depend on how many petals you're going to cut for each. So even if you cut them all and you don't want that many in, you can take them out and save them for a different project. So to start off with, all I'm going to do is pop a tiny bit of hot glue in there. So this is going to start off to make the bud. So we're going to pinch it. Sometimes it's nice to get some pictures of some flowers up so you can follow it if you wanted more of a realistic flower. So pinch and hold it for just a few minutes. And then as you'll see, you've got the bud. So again, it can be down to personal preference on how you like to make your flowers. Some people like to start from the outside and go in, but I just personally like to do it this way. So it's really therapeutic to keep making these flowers because they can look stunning when you make a few of them all in different materials. So you can make them out of rice papers, which I've done, which I've got one to show you prepped already. Different hardness of fabrics, different colours, and when they're all together they look really lovely. So as you can see, I'm just really scrunching up the petals because this is the centre of the rose that I'm going to make. So we do want these bits to be quite squished and tight in. A little bit more of hot glue. I always recommend to use hot glue because it does dry fast, so you can just pop it straight on there and it's done. If you use a wet glue, you'll be sat there for hours. And then the next one, so now we're going to go up in the sides, so we're going to go to the medium one next. Exactly the same process for all of it. A little bit in there, go for the same. So pinch one petal in and mould it round. Now you can see the flowers starting to form and take its shape. And again. You might find as you go along with some petals that have just come out or not quite got into the glue that you've pressed in, you might just have to put a little bit of hot glue into them. So if I was going to do it, I'll just pop it here just to show you. So these petals have just not quite made it into the glue. And just pop it in and round. Doesn't matter if the glue leaks over because you won't see this bit anyway. And then the next one. I might just leave it and just do 3 for the middle one because we're getting quite thick with the flower now. So pop a little bit more on the bigger flowers. hold it there for a second, and exactly the same. Just be careful with your fingers as well, because the hot glue will seep through the fabric and we don't want it to burn. So just be careful, keep moving your fingers around the flower, holding it in place. The back of the flowers has been left white as well, so that adds a little bit of colour and depth to it. So don't worry about that. Then finally, your last petal, a little bit more glue on there. Hold it in place and keep moulding it round. Just be careful with your last flower, so try and do alternative petals. So here, just make sure that it's going to look full, and this will be down to your positioning. And then I always like to just pinch this one out a little bit. We're going to fluff the flower up in a second, so we'll be able to see it properly. And then just make sure it's cooled. There we are. So holding it at the bottom, we're just going to go out. So this will be down to your fabric hardener, that the fabric will allow you to do this to keep its shape. So we're going to grab and just rearrange the flowers. Like I said earlier, it's nice to have a little bit of that white come through on the flowers. So when it's all fluffed, it'll look like this when it's finished. Now you can keep going however big or however small you want with the flowers, so you can do tiny little buds, so they're just growing, or depending on what dyes you're using, you can get different sort of flowers, so you can make daffodils. Well, I've made a rose today, but the possibilities are endless with the dyes. So here are some flowers that I have made earlier. So this is a rice paper one. So we've photocopied the rice paper onto cardstock just to give it a little bit more stiffness, and then we just brushed over the paper with gold wax, and then made the flowers. This one's used a little bit of a different dye, so it's not as tight and as busy as the one I've just made. So this is just using the medium shape dye. So this is the project that we made earlier in the lace video, if you want to give that one a watch. And then all we're going to do now is, just to finish this beautiful piece off, is stick the flowers down in a little constellation. And with the flowers, it's nice to see when you're doing your rice papers or whatever background you've got, if you highlight the colours. So we've picked out the blue, we've picked out the pink, we've picked out the gold, so it all marries and ties together, and it matches the waxes as well. So it's nice for it all to sort of link together with everything.